Today we're going to look at the role of the return to work coordinator and the potential skills gap through to issues with development programs for them, as well as talking a little bit about psychosocial hazards and the issues that employers are facing in trying to get their head around those. Kathy, what do you see as one of the major issues with return to work coordinators at the moment?
Their ability to drive outcomes or inability to drive outcomes.
And what do you think is the cause of that? Lack
of training. I think people are employed to do injury management and return to work. Injury management, is a little bit of a different piece, but when it comes to the return to work side of things, I just think that there's a lack of input from organisations and a lack of training internally to build those capabilities.
But Kathy, there's that amazing return to work coordinator course that is hosted in every state, and the return to work coordinators have to do it. What do you mean they don't have skills?
Well, I think that's great for 5 minutes. It's a very it's a one touch point, but it's not building capabilities or skills. It's not giving individuals psychological insight into claims. It's just a process.
We expect a lot of them. What we get is we want them to manage the process of return to work. We expect them to be injury management experts, even if they don't have an allied health background. And they're meant to do all that off a 2-day course that they go to?
Yeah.
You mentioned before, though, saying that, they're hired as return to work coordinators. Some of them aren't even hired as return to work coordinators. They might wear 3 other hats as well. So, when they start having multiple workers' compensation claims, then, even they're hired as payroll or HR or whatever, they then need to basically, the workers' comp role almost takes, or the return to work role takes over their predominant role.
So what are the skills when we look at, take the admin out of it? So there is obviously process and paperwork that they need to understand in their role. But what are the things that they actually need to understand and learn that'll help them do their role better?
Claim strategy, legislation.
What resources they have available under the under a workers' compensation claim.
How to influence stakeholders.
How to talk to doctors.
Talk to doctors, talk to workers.
Yeah. So why is it that we somehow expect that everyone just can actually do that without the training?
That's a good question, Simon.
One of our best ones recently was a company that expected that, I've got over 25 years experience. Kathy, you're close to 20, Alex.
15
years, Pete's 20 plus, that in the space of a year, their return to work coordinator would know what it's taken us, almost 3 decades to put together.
Yeah.
From a standing start. So what is it then, if we look at the scheme, because we do push hard and say that the employers need to take a lot more activity and action and drive return to work and drive better outcomes in their premium. What is it then that the scheme should be making available to help them with that?
More training. There should be more tailored courses to what they are going to experience as a return to work coordinator, rather than just hitting the administrative timelines for a workers' comp claim. So something that brings more some of those real life examples that they need to, or they will come, or they'll have to address.
But I think, absolutely, more return to work coordinator specific training, because all insurers and agents, they offer training, but it doesn't target return to work coordinators roles per se. It sort of dances all around that. So specific training around legislation. There needs to be more of that, because a lot of return to work coordinators don't have any insight into legislation, so they have no idea how to talk to the insurer. They have no idea about timeframes or, what their rights are, what they can do and how they can influence. So,
and let's be clear, we're actually not trying to have a go at return to work coordinators. We actually think there's a lot of people there trying to do a great job. A lot of our clients we're going to, they're very frustrated because they're not able to achieve what they want to achieve. And a lot of it is just because they've never been shown, hey, what if you approached it from this direction instead of this direction?
Yeah.
What if you engaged this person or this person to assist you along the way, and that's how you get an outcome.
Yeah.
They're sitting there, often it's one person managing 50 or so claims, overwhelmed, no real support and going, well, I only know this much and I don't understand why I can't get past these barriers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, especially because they don't understand, arguments around, liability. So their return to work coordinators will already be disgruntled, not understanding why a claim has been accepted. That then translates into how they manage that claim ongoing, and so strategy goes by the wayside.
And you said that because they often don't have an intimate understanding of the eligibility process.
Yeah.
But who's the company going to and expecting to get the claims
Them.
client, the return to work coordinator?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we look at what's going on out there, one of the things I see when I look at the industry is the role of the return to work coordinator inside an organisation is actually quite devalued. I
Yes.
see that the pays, given they're possibly responsible for a $4 or $5 million premium, they're not paid very well, right? They're reporting to people who are making decisions without consulting them that actually actively adversely impact their ability to get people back to work. It seems upside down. It almost seems like as long as you've got safety and HR, that workers' comp should be sitting above that because everything these other two areas are doing is actually impacting there.
Yeah.
And if they're doing it in isolation and not in consultation, then it causes a lot of issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
But is it because if we look at HR generally they go get a diploma or they do some degree to get there. Safety is a bit the same. To be a return to work coordinator, you just have to have the company nominate you as a return to work coordinator. So is it that imbalance of, well, it's probably we talked about skills. So there are some people out there who have got a lot of skills who could take that on a lead role. Is it a lack of skills, and therefore because they haven't done what everyone else has done to get the role, are they not appreciated as much?
It doesn't. So is it? But it's more. It's through the agents. They've got that PEEF injury management.
Yeah.
I can't comment like what's involved with it, but I'm not sure if that can translate to, say, a return to work coordinator at an employer. But maybe that's a requirement if you are a return to work, or you are wanting to do the return to work coordinator role at an employer, that you need to complete some formal course like that rather than the 2-day. Obviously, complete the 2-day course to tick the box, but they might need to do some more formalised training in that type of space.
And the regulators need to make that compulsory so that the employer has to do it, so that the workers are getting there. Or looking out for opportunities. And it's not always the stuff you think it is. Some of the things I think that return to work coordinators should be looking at are things around negotiation, things around motivation. These are things that they can apply daily to drive outcomes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be about, I need to go and become an expert in lower back injuries or shoulder injuries, though a degree of understanding common injuries and illnesses in your workplace would be beneficial. But it's these things that actually will help you from a people side of things influence outcomes.
And I remember my role when I was an account manager at the agents, and the amount of times you'd talk about claims with return to work coordinators, and they'd be talking about a claim that was 5, 6, 7 years old, and not understanding that it's not impacting anymore. Yes, we've still got to work with it, but time and effort should be put on these ones because these are the ones that are going to financially impact you over the next 2-3 years. We shouldn't be worrying about a worker that is back at work full time on modified duties, rather than we've got these cohort of workers that are off completely unfit. So there's a lot for them to learn in a role where a lot of the time they just get thrown that hat.
I had a similar experience with a return to work coordinator, and he's off-site patted themselves on the back because they just reduced the estimates in New South Wales by $2 million. And they were telling me the claims, and I'm going through my list and I couldn't find them. And that's where we worked out they were claims that weren't premium impacting. So the insurer was happy to decrease the premiums because it didn't actually count. So, but they didn't actually understand that. And that is that understanding of this, the structure of the scheme. What's premium impacting? What's going to drive a claim? When do you need to start looking at alternate to return to work? And that might be retraining. That might be, work capacity decisions in New South Wales. It might be 185 Victoria. All these options that come up if you get a bit more understanding and training about how the scheme
absolutely. Works. That's that strategic piece, and that's what a lot of return to work coordinators lack, unfortunately, because they do get bogged down with the admin side of things, and they are trying to coordinate between a line or, supervisor, line manager, doctors, insurers, so they miss that whole, lateral thinking.
And that's, I guess, it's hard because the reality is we probably need people in those roles who have a combination claims experience, rehabilitation experience.
Yep.
So they've got an allied health background.
Yep.
They've got some claims knowledge.
Yeah.
The issue is, though, you're not going to get those people for 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
No.
And that's the point where we undervalue that. What are we losing in excess premium that we're saving by not upskilling our people, not paying them, not valuing them to do those roles?
Absolutely. And a lot of the times it feels that they're, going on a downward slope because they've got, managers that they need to influence in order to get a return to work plan approved. They've got HR that they're dealing with. They've got safety that they deal with. And these areas don't really gel well together in a lot of organisations, and so they feel like they're always in fight and flight mode and not being supported, and that's another really big issue.
And they have no authority over any of those.
That's
people.
Right. They have to influence them, but they
so
can't.
when the manager goes, "I'm not having them back,"
I'm
till
not
they're
having
fit,
them back. It's like
they can't do anything about that.
That's right. Yeah.
When the claim goes south, when the
Who
premium
gets
goes
blamed?
up,
Yeah.
it's why didn't you get them back to work?
Yeah. That's
And
right.
and the blame gets thrown on the return to work
Yeah.
coordinator,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
they might have had all these barriers around them internally.
Yep. And
they'll
who do
be
they
the
go
one.
to when they face all these
Yep.
barriers? So who are their support group?
Yeah.
Yep.
So why don't we talk psychosocial hazards for a bit? So we've now got 17 common psychosocial hazards that are identified. I'm still not seeing employers move far down the journey, and I think a lot of it's because they don't know what to do. What about yourselves? Are we seeing much traction? Are we hearing much from employers?
Well, there's a bit of talk. They certainly want to talk about it, but yeah, I think you're right. I think they don't know where to start.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We're hearing a lot of stuff. People go, "Oh, we're using our engagement surveys. We're using this. We're using that." They're using a lot of things that aren't purpose built to identify psychosocial hazards and trying to drag stuff out of it.
Yeah.
So what you're going to get there is a lot of, I guess, assumptions being made, and we're going to miss the point. We're getting a lot where we're not going to bother doing consultation because we've got results that we don't like, so we don't want to talk to our staff about it. Well, that's not how this game works.
I think there's a lot of cultural unravelling that needs to occur because for the most part, physical injuries have been drummed into every single workplace, and because, psychosocial hazards, albeit they're not new, but they're new for the most part, a lot of organisations have put it to the back burner because nothing major has really happened or nothing has happened to scare them or frighten them into, right, we now need to do something. So is it really going to take something
I think so.
bad to happen to...
Well, yeah, I think it'll be that or just more prosecutions.
Yeah.
And I think, we know Victoria is pretty quick to prosecute. We know that, I don't think that's a bad thing if people are doing the wrong thing. If we look at, going back to 1985, I think we're having something like 72,000 claims a year. WorkSafe comes out, they start enforcing, they start doing inspections, they start prosecuting, they start putting expectations on employers around that physical safety side. And we see a big decrease down about 32,000 claims within about 10, 15 years. We're starting to see that creep back up because of mental injury claims. So they'll have to be out there. I believe they will looking for examples. And what we'll be seeing is people who are putting in mental injury claims, that WorkSafe will have to start going out and going, right, what's the cause of this? Right, what's the psychosocial hazard? Show us that you actually have addressed it. And this is two fronts. It's overall you need to be looking at what's in your organisation. So that's the greater piece. But if someone actually reports something to you, you have to go through the risk management process for that incident. So just like if someone said, there's, I don't know, a big hole in the floor, we'd go and assess it, we'd look at what the hazard is, the risk behind it, what can we do to address it, and once we put the control measures in place, we'd go through and then make sure it was wrapped up. If someone comes and says, I'm being bullied, well, you now have to start a risk management process. Yes, you do your investigation. We also now start to look at Is that hazard there?
Yep.
Well, yes. Okay. What's the likelihood that it's going to cause harm? What's the consequence if it does cause harm? And therefore, that'll tell you how quickly I need to act. And then what are you going to do? And if that's happening and you're showing that you haven't even looked at it and you're not doing anything, then there's going to be ramifications.
But Simon, that right there is what organisations need education on, because we speak to a lot of our clients, in particular during an emerging risk meeting, and we advise them of that very thing, and they don't believe that it's necessary to do that. They don't understand that they have to. And if I can just make a quick observation, Alex, I know you wanted to say something. Prior to the regs actually coming out and being formalised, WorkSafe was going out to employers, and so everyone was scared. They were scared at that point. They were very worried, and they really wanted to know, what do I have to do? Once the regulations came out, and they were quite relaxed.
Watered down, yeah.
Yep, they were relaxed. WorkSafe stopped going out, I believe, as much as possible, as often as possible, because I haven't heard of them going out to any of my clients where they were previously visited. So I'm wondering if that has a lot to do with why, there's more of a relaxed stance on psychosocial hazards and what has to be done.
If we look at New South Wales, SafeWork New South Wales has been out doing a bit of a blitz on safety, and one of the top 5 issues they're looking at is psychosocial hazards. So I think it goes back to, it is fear. I think, and when I say there isn't enough.
Yeah.
When people are getting prosecuted, for the physical side, people, I better start doing something. When that work, regulators knocking on the doors, we're going to come in, we're going to do this review. It's one of those hard things that it's going to take someone having something adverse happen, whether it's something adverse to a worker or a prosecution of themselves, before they start moving forward. Yeah. Because the other side is, it's easy to go, there was no guard on the machine, we put the guard on the machine. What we talk about when we're talking psychosocial hazards is cultural change. Yep. It's costly and it takes a long time to happen. Yep. And then it doesn't take a lot inside that for things to go in the wrong direction. So I think part of what we've got is they don't know how to do a risk assessment because there's not a lot out there. They'll tell you, you've got to look at these 3 factors, but can you show me how to look at those factors? Yeah. There's not a lot of people who know, well, what do I do when I've identified this hazard? Yeah. So they're 2 factors that are now sitting on employers who haven't really been given the education and training how to do it. Yeah. And if we look at the regs that came in Victoria, we look at a 4-step risk management process: identify your hazards, assess the risk, implement your controls, and review. Yeah. When WorkSafe brought in their regulations, they had Section 14 was identify your hazards. Section 15 went straight to controls. Yeah. So there was no requirement in the regulations to assess the risk, even though we know that's part of the process. Yeah. And all I can think of is even WorkSafe doesn't know how to effectively assess these risks, so they couldn't put it in there because then they would have had to tell people how to do it.
I think a lot of employees that we have spoken to, or that I've spoken to over the last probably 12 months in this space, jump straight to step 3, which is control. So they believe they know what hazards are present within their workplace, but most of them are the common ones that everyone knows. Yep. So with there being 17 now, there's a lot that gets missed. So they really do need to go back to step 1 and identify what may be present within their workplace.
And I think there's that whole cognitive dissonance piece as well. So you point out a hazard, but the client doesn't want to agree that it is a hazard. Well, no, it's not. Okay, well, it's come out. We've identified it. It's there. No, it's not. No, I don't believe it.
And because a lot of the ones, when we look at those harmful behaviours, they're quite confronting. Some of the things that assessments we've done have found sexual harassment, sexual assault, harassment, bullying, all this sort of stuff that people don't want to believe is in their workplace. But the reality is, if we have people in a workplace, then there is, not saying it's occurring now, but when we look at the likelihood, we talk about could it happen once every 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, is it happening pretty much every month? So if we've got people in an environment, there is the possibility of harassment and bullying taking place, because that is just, unfortunately, the reality of it. Not saying it's happening today, but it could happen, so we have to prepare for it. And especially things like, we look at sexual harassment now, there's a positive duty for employers to actually stop it.
Yep.
Used to be you had to have a really good way of managing it when it occurred. Now you have a duty to stop it.
Yeah.
So therefore, if it occurs, you need to be able to show that you did everything reasonably practical to stop it from happening.
Stop it.
And in my opinion, that should be the same for bullying and same for violence and aggression.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So I guess the big takeaways here for today are we need to look at, as an industry and as individual employers, how we can upskill our return to work coordinators to give them the skills, experience and tools to be able to effectively do their job.
Yep.
Instead of being the scapegoats for, it's not working, our return to work's not going well.
Please explain.
When they've got no hierarchical control
Yep.
and limited resources to do it with.
Yeah.
From a psychosocial perspective, employers need to go back to the basics, gather data, identify what the hazards are, and then work through the process.
Yep.
And if they can start through the process and seek appropriate help, they should be able to get ahead of it before the time that the regular staff does.
Yep.